Are we recording? Are we rolling?
Yeah, like it's been rolling for like 20
rolling.
minutes. Rolling
Down the river. Just jump into the lake with me. Let's just jump into this.
Let's just jump into it.
Episode 7?
We are doing episode number 7 of the Budget Babes.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
Yeah.
I like 7.
Interesting.
Yeah, 7's a pretty decent number. We have to figure that one out.
But yeah, so
Today's
episode number
episode.
7 with Leela and Aaron.
Holla.
That's us.
Leela, Aaron. Doing pretty good.
What are we talking about, Leela?
Today we are actually talking about mortgages, which is a pretty heavy topic, so we're just going to kind of cover how to get started on, getting a mortgage and like what kind of information you need to know about yourself so you don't just end up needlessly checking your credit like a psychopath.
Yes.
Which actually causes your credit score to go down.
I was just gonna say that. I actually knew that.
Hey,
and
dude.
it's a good fact for everyone to know. Every time you check your credit gets dinged.
Exactly. And if you had followed our tip from the previous episode and gotten Credit Karma,
oh yeah,
then you would see exactly what companies are dinging your credit and when they're dinging them. So I just applied for a credit card the other day, and it showed up on my Credit Karma, and it's like,
yo, somebody's checking your credit.
And I was like, oh my god, okay. This is cool because now I know every time somebody checks my credit.
That is cool. That's solid.
Super handy.
Show me that later.
Yeah.
Offline.
Anytime. Off the camera.
So, what about mortgages? Like, that's a big scary M word.
I know, right? Because that's like a debt that lasts 25 years.
And by the way, we both actually have one.
We do.
We each have our own.
Mortgages are one of the largest payments you're going to have for your entire life. Canada, specifically, our mortgages can go up to like $1 million for like just a crappy bungalow. Yeah. Which is horrible. Like, our housing prices are just all over the map. Like, thankfully, we live in Saskatchewan, so our housing prices kind of normalized. But compared to places like the States, my mom lives in South Carolina, and her house cost $150,000 when she bought it. So we're literally paying double, typically, what the States pays.
Double, yeah.
Like, even when she sells, it'll be about $220, which is, like, on the very, very low end here in Canada.
Yeah, that's the low end here in Canada.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
So for Canadians, buying a house is a huge commitment, especially since inflation has gone up so much.
Yeah. Prices
for other things are so much, and our wages aren't increasing as they should be. So we're actually kind of in a bit of a sticky wicket, I guess, to put it.
We lock ourselves into plans to pay off our mortgage in, like, 25 years, for example. Like, that is a significant chunk of your life.
Yeah, like, so if I was 25 and I had 25 years to pay off my mortgage, I'd be 50 by the time I paid it off. Ouch.
Yes.
And on top of that, actually, like, since this is so much money and our interest rates are so low, our interest rates now are hovering around 2.7 to about 4%. So when they actually try to approve you for a mortgage, you're actually going to interest rate at about 5.34%. So that's what's called a stress test, aka the test says, okay, they can handle an interest rate increase up to this point. So that's what Canada decides federally. Before applying for a loan for a mortgage, make sure you understand that the price is going to go up substantially because they're testing at 5% instead of 2%. On top of that, because we're buying such huge amounts of property, like such huge mortgages, like the interest seems so low. It's like 2%, right? It's like barely anything.
Yeah, even like a little 3%.
Yeah, for 3%, it's like, okay, that's not bad. But in the 80s, interest rates got up to 18% on a house.
Wow.
How nuts is that? Like, if we had our interest rate increased to 18%, it's like a credit card. Could you imagine having a $400,000 mortgage on a credit card?
Oh, that would kick our butts.
Right?
That would kick our butts to the curb.
So, in 25 years, a lot of things can happen. So, the 80s was only about, 40 years away?
Yeah.
So, your mortgage is 25 years? Lots can change, just saying.
And house prices even change,
Yes,
houses didn't used to be as expensive as they are now in Canada for what you get.
No, yeah, I remember the days, because it was 18%, the house prices are so much lower. Like, you could buy a house in Saskatchewan for under $100,000, and it wasn't a huge deal. It was actually pretty normal to buy houses around that price range. So, yeah. But the problem is now that our house prices are so high, it's only crawling down while the interest rates are going up. So, you kind of get a little bit of an imbalance effect. Yeah, it's terrifying how things change. So, if you are getting a mortgage, make sure to check out the cost of the house. So, like, you're going to have this for 25 years. Maybe even test yourself up to 10%. Can you survive a 10% interest rate? Just for your own good, because there's been a lot of foreclosures recently, which are terrible because people are buying those $500,000 houses.
Well, that's the thing too, like for some people I think it's a prestige thing, some people prefer certain areas, that seem more affluent or whatever. Some people, they want to have a family, or there's lots of people in the house, they want a bigger house. But you factor all these things in, and then you're spending over $400,000, $500,000
On a house.
On a house. You gotta make sure that that's not gonna make you house poor.
Exactly.
And that can you afford this still in the next, like you were saying,
like
if things change in the next 25 years.
Yeah. I like that word, actually, house poor. It's a thing people have been talking about a lot.
Yeah, I keep hearing that buzzword.
And it's actually pretty legitimate because of the cost of houses increasing so much. So, for example, in the city of Saskatoon, the average house prices in 2017 were $310,000, or around the $300,000 mark. For average price, that's insane. That's a huge amount of money.
Right?
And it's actually only crept down the last 2 years with our, economy kind of shooting down. It's only crawled down to about $282,000.
And that's still hefty to me.
It's a freaking amount of money.
Yeah.
So, like, if you are going to buy something that's, like, humongous, like, do you actually need all that space?
Yeah.
And if you don't need all that space, maybe it might be a good idea for you to rent out a portion of that space to somebody you know, or maybe have a suite. A lot of people will buy houses and then have a suite added to it just to help pay the mortgage. Like, for example, I guess I have 3 roommates right now, which sounds a little insane.
In the house you own, you have 3 roommates.
But I don't pay a mortgage, though.
Offsets, right?
Yeah. So it's a really nice balance. If you're comfortable around people, like, I definitely have my own space and my own areas, which is nice, but it's a great way to offset it. Or if you're really antisocial, having a basement suite, they'll stay away from you.
Yeah, true that. So there is ways.
Definitely ways.
Yeah.
If you need the prestigious large house.
Yeah, you just gotta factor in, like, what do you really need? What can you really afford? Shop around.
Yes, shop around is so important. Like, you'll think it's the best deal in the world, but, maybe give it a couple months. Like, for example, December, January, typically the lowest prices for houses. Maybe if you wait till then, something else great will come if you're not in any rush.
And you don't just have to buy the first thing you look at, the first thing the realtor shows you. You don't just have to go for the first thing your mortgage broker or bank wants to give you.
Yeah, you can wait for rates. Like, you can shop around. Like, I guess if I'm going to talk about the tips that I have here, because I've been looking at buying another house, because I'm a total psychopath. Things I've been looking into, because typically the first mortgage I went through a bank. So I got a really good rate because all of the rates were down when I bought. But now I'm actually going through a mortgage broker because they use different rates from banks, from other financial institutions.
Right.
And they also work with both borrowing companies. I guess banks do as well, but both borrowing companies for smaller amounts of down payment. So, like, for example, do you have $60,000 to pay for a down payment? No. And you're probably not going to have that, like, if you're renting a house. It's going to be difficult to save up $60,000. So typically people in our age generation, whatever you like to call it, only have about 5 to 10% saved up for a down payment.
Yeah.
So there's actually 2 companies in Canada that do down payment assistance. They're called Genworth and CHMS.
Oh.
Most people don't know about Genworth,
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so if you buy a house with only 5% down, which it's not a bad idea because interest rates are so low right now, it's smarter to buy with a smaller amount of down payment.
Okay.
Because you can make more money elsewhere with the money that you would spend on a house down payment, which is a whole nother bag of worms. I'll get into that someday. Those are 2 companies that will lend you the rest of your down payment, and mortgage brokers will work with both of them, which is really handy. Typically, banks will only work with one or the other, which kind of sucks because then you don't get the best thing possible for you.
Around.
Yeah, hence the shopping around.
Yeah.
So another good thing is before you even talk to a bank or talk to a mortgage broker, the best things you can do for yourself is to get your feet in the group. Get your feet in the group. So what I'm talking about is knowing your TDS and GDS.
Get your ducks in a row.
Yeah. So your TDS is your total debt service.
Okay.
And your GDS is your gross debt service, I believe.
What are those, just in bullet points?
So bullet points, the TDS is the cost of your house and any debt you have. Like, the money that you're spending to service debt that you have.
Okay.
And gross debt service is additional debt like credit cards, other stuff like that, like anything that you're servicing outside. So both of these numbers have to be within a certain percentage. For example, your TDS has to be 44% of your income, and your GDS typically has to be about 33 to 34% of your total income. So the lower you can get those numbers, the better rates you'll get, the more amount they'll approve you for a mortgage, etc. There's actually really handy calculators online.
Oh, cool.
We'll link them below. So that's two numbers that you should always have before going to talk to your mortgage broker, because you should know how much you can actually afford.
That's a really good tip. Basically, know
your limits.
Know your limits. Know what you have in your back pocket. Know what your scope of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Know what your picture is before someone else tells you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say I've got a mortgage right now. I have, this is me. I'm just gonna make up a fake person, Joe.
Hi,
Sorry, Joe. So let's say he's got a mortgage, he pays rent.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking to buy a house. He's got $10,000 worth of credit cards. He's got student loans. He's got a vehicle payment. Joe's probably not going to be able to afford a lot of stuff, unfortunately, because, with that much debt over top of your head, he probably would barely be approved for a line of credit.
Yeah.
Because when the bank looks at him, they're like, oh man, Joe's servicing all of this debt. We're not going to take him. And Joe even himself should probably think about lowering his amount of debt so he has more money free when his check comes in. So I guess that's a whole living paycheck to paycheck thing. If you're living paycheck to paycheck. That's a whole quality
of life thing.
Yeah. Don't do that to yourself. That's cruel and unusual. So make sure you know what you're doing with your money, like budgeting, understanding where your money goes, and how much is left over so you can move that to a house payment, for example.
Yeah.
The next thing I'm going to talk about, credit score.
Ah.
So I know you know a lot about credit score.
Not a lot, but
I've harassed you a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people don't know about credit scores, and especially a lot of people, young adults,
yes,
don't know about it.
I find people are scared of their credit.
Yeah. Or wonder why you need good credit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's super important to have good credit, or at least understand where you're sitting in your credit. So, link below, Credit Karma. I've talked about it. Aaron's talked about it. We've all talked about Credit Karma, which is a free way to check your credit score in Canada. Super awesome, easy to look at, and it also shows you all your debt. Check it on your phone.
Yeah.
So I find lots of people are scared of their credit. Because, let's say if it's, you're scared to see what number you're actually associated with. Your credit is so important to you, and once you know what the number is, you can start making it better, or just keep on, if you're already in the good, you could be pleasantly surprised. So your credit score is really good it's good to have a good credit score when talking to the bank, because then you have a record. So your credit score is a record of payments you've made, how much debt you have, and other payments that you're making currently. So it's just pretty much your life on paper with money.
Yeah.
For the banks, usually it's Equifax and TransUnion that are our credit adjustment people here. Anyways, hop on Credit Karma, see what your credit score is. It's great to have an above 700 credit score before looking to buy a house, because then you look like you're really responsible with your money, you've got good credit, and then you can also check out everything you're paying into there as well if you're doing your TDS or GDS scores.
Just a side note caveat to all this, I'd like to point out that, if you're worried about your credit score or scared to look at it, again, Leela said it's just your numbers on paper, you and your numbers on paper. It's not a full picture of your worth as a human being.
Yeah. It's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of what you've done.
It's just something
money-wise.
It's just something to, again, just protect yourself and be aware of, and so you can be prepared and help yourself thrive in your life.
Exactly, yeah. Because having a good credit score, even if it's in the total pits, let's say you have a 500 credit score, that means you can only go up from there. It's actually a really good thing, because you start paying down debt, you'll see the little knob go up and up and up. It's like, man, I'm getting really far with my credit score. You'd be surprised. The lower you are, the higher you gain, actually. It's really interesting. I've helped a couple people with their credit stuff, and it's just been world changing to see people change their credit and be happy.
Aw, that's amazing.
It's awesome. It's a good feeling. Mortgages, I tell you, they're so complicated.
Yeah.
But if you actually break them down into manageable chunks,
it's
so easy. Just get your ducks in a row before you talk to a mortgage person. Know your numbers, know your limits.
We should call this episode Mortgages for Millennials.
Mortgages for Millennials, yeah,
the two big scary M words out there.
That's true.
Yeah. So what's our thanks tips?
Yeah, I guess we should probably do our thanks tips. So our thanks tips for this episode is, number one, for us.
Yeah.
It's never too late to build credit.
No.
If you've got crappy credit right now, just start building it.
Yeah. It's all good.
Typically, if you've got crappy credit, it's because you either missed a payment, which will be forgiven, or you can actually talk to the credit bureau and have them remove it. Or two, you just have too high balance on your credit cards, which is, once again, very easy to solve. You just start paying them down.
Yeah, you can't go back in time, so there's no point worrying about that, but you can
move forward and make it better.
Move forward, yes.
So it's never too late.
And
never too late.
Our other #thanks tips is shop around before you drop that money around.
Yeah!
Yes!
Shop around! Yeah, don't buy the first pretty pony you see.
Yeah, don't buy the first pretty pony you see. Don't buy the first house you see. Don't go with the first thing the bank or mortgage broker offers you.
Yep.
You're allowed to shop around and do what's right for your wallet and your life.
Exactly. Never feel guilty for doing what's good for you.
Yeah.
You're never going to hurt somebody's feelings when you're doing something that's right for you.
Yeah.
I like that.
And don't be afraid of the big M's.
Yeah.
Mortgages and millennials.
Anyways. That's episode 7 all wrapped up.
Hope you all enjoyed.
The Budget Babes.
The Budget Babes.
And we look forward to seeing you in episode 8.
See you in episode 8. It'll be great.
Yeah. 8, great. All right.
Thanks, babes.
Bye.